In this video, we are going to talk about section 2.2 from the book, okay, which is the differentiation rules. So last time what we did is we defined the derivative of y equals to f of x. The notation for the derivative is you can denote by y prime. You just do the prime on y, or f prime of x, or sometimes we write dy over dx, okay, dy over dx or dfx over dx. These are the notations we use for the derivative, right? But what is the meaning of the derivative? What is the definition of the derivative? What is the formula of the derivative for any function? We gave the definition of the derivative by the limit process, okay? So the limit definition of the derivative is dy over dx, or you can write y prime or f prime of x is limit h tends to 0 f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. So you can write delta x instead of h there. You can write limit delta x tends to 0 f of x plus delta x minus fx divided by h. You can do that too, but this definition is called limit definition, or defining the derivative using the limit, okay, or limit process. All right. Also last time, another thing that we did is dy, if y equals to x to the n, if there is just x and then some exponent of x, if there is no any number before x, right, there is no any number below x in the denominator of x, we have just x to the n, then the derivative is y prime equals to that exponent goes to the front, n, and then x, and then 1 less than that exponent, that is nx n minus 1, okay? Or you can write dx to the n over dx, exactly the same thing but different notation, okay? This is one notation, this is another notation, is equals to nx n minus 1. And another thing is, if y equals to a constant c, there is no x, there is just a number like 5 or 4 or just a constant c, then the derivative is 0. Do you remember how did we find the derivative of this? What we did is you can write c equals to c times 1, right, and then c times x to the 0, right, and just pull that c out, and then the derivative of x to the 0 is 0x to the n minus 1, that is 0 times something, 0 minus 1, right? 0 times something will be 0. That's how we did that. But why can you pull that c out and find the derivative of x to the 0 only? We will discuss that later, okay? But yes, that is the derivative of a constant, that is always 0. And the final thing that we discussed last time is what do you get with f prime of x is basically slope of fx at x, right? Basically the derivative of a function gives you the slope of the function basically at a point x, okay, at a point x. So but this is called the limit definition, okay, but we don't use the limit definition when we find out the derivative because it is too long, okay? Limit definition is usually used to find out the formula of the derivative of different types of function, okay? So when we do the problem finding the derivative, actually we don't use this limit definition later. There are shortcut way to do that, like we use that formula directly, okay, that formula directly. But to find out the formula, to derive the formula of derivative of function, usually at the first time we use the limit definition, or we use the limit process, okay? So before I go to the shortcut formula, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out the formula for derivative of y equals to sine x, or fx equals sine x and y equals to cosine of x. Let's do this. Solution is we have fx equals to sine x, right? So what you want to do is you want to find out f prime of x, right? What is the formula? Limit h tends to 0 f of x plus h minus fx, right? And then divide by h, okay? Now what is the value of f of x plus h? Limit h tends to 0 f of x plus h will be x replaced by x plus h. You will have sine x plus h minus sine x, right? Because fx plus h minus f of x is sine x divided by h. You see that? That is divided by h. Then what? So then what you do is you use the formula of sine x plus h. Do you remember the formula of the sum of the sine? The sine a plus b is equals to sine a cosine b times cosine b, right? And then plus cosine a times sine b. This is the sum of the sine formula. You cannot distribute sine a plus sine b that way. Sine is the trig ratio, works differently for the sum, okay? It does not distribute straight. So this is the formula to find out the sum of the sine, okay? So what you do here then what you do there is basically, so equals to limit h tends to 0. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use that formula. It will be sine x times cosine h plus cosine of x times sine of h, and then minus sine x is still there, right? Sine x divided by what? h. You see that? This is what you will get. Now, if you look at this, what do you get there? Then you see that there is basically, let me denote that this has sine there, this has sine, okay? So I want to factor that sine out from those two terms, and then I will keep that same, the middle term same, okay? So how do I do that? Is basically this is equals to, let me do that, sine x take out, you write cosine of h minus 1, and then plus cosine x sine h, right? There is a times in the middle and there is a h in the denominator. So what I want to do next is I want to write the I want to split the denominator. So you can write this as limit h tends to 0, right? You can write sine x times cosine of h minus 1 divided by h, and then I can distribute the limit as well. Limit h tends to 0 cosine of x times sine of h divided by h. You can write that way, right? So if you want to, you can write 1 minus cosine h here and then write a negative sign there, okay? So what I want to do here is, let me do that one more time. So basically you can write limit h tends to 0. I can write minus sine x 1 minus cosine h divided by h. Why do I do that? Because I know that the limit formula, limit h tends to 0, 1 minus cosine h over h is 0, right? I want to use that formula. That's why I'm trying to write this in that form. And then plus limit h tends to 0, you can write cosine of x times sine h over h, right? So look at this. What do you get there? You see that limit h tends to 0, that is 1, right? And limit h tends to 0, that thing is basically 0, right? So sine x times 0 will be, this thing will be 0. The first term will be 0. The second term will be cosine of x. 0 plus cosine of x will be just cosine of x, right? Which is the formula. So you get that this is equals to cosine of x. So you see that the derivative of sine x is cosine x, right? So if you want to, you can write this way too, if you want to. So you can write d over dx sine x equals to cosine of x. See, because we were taking fx equals to sine x, right? We were taking fx equals sine x, and we got f prime of x equals to cosine x. The another way of writing exactly the same thing is d over dx sine x is equals to cosine of x.